Sometimes in life, moments arrive that feel too precise to be random. A conversation at the exact time you needed comfort. A stranger's glance that says more than words. A person you just met yet somehow feel you've known forever. It's as if the universe, or something greater, aligned the paths of two souls to intersect for a very specific reason. These moments shake you. They stop time, and they leave you wondering, why now? Why them? The answer is simple yet profound because it was meant to happen. Because someone, somewhere far beyond our limited understanding, orchestrated the meeting. That person was put in front of you not by accident, but by divine intention. N-N-I-F. You felt it deep in your soul that meeting someone changed something in you, opened something in you. Then that's your confirmation. You are not imagining the energy, the timing, the silent message hidden in their presence. This is your reminder to hold on to that sense, to not dismiss it as coincidence. And before we dive deeper, I encourage you to stay with this video until the end. You'll understand more than you expect. In the comments, share your warmest wishes for the journey ahead and write the number 77. This moment is about wishes coming true, about releasing your energy into the universe with intention and clarity. When you write it, you're sending a message. You're saying you're ready, and that message will echo louder than you know. Now let's return to what really matters. The presence of someone new or someone familiar returning with new depth is never meaningless. There is often a quiet shift in the universe when that person enters. You may feel like the rest of the world fades into the background. They walk into your life, and suddenly there's a shift in your focus, in your feelings, even in your future plans. You might not even be able to fully describe it in words, only that something feels different now. The truth is, souls recognize each other far before our minds catch up. Our intuition understands these divine appointments before logic dares to make sense of them. There is a reason why this particular person showed up in your life when they did. Maybe you were going through something you didn't know how to process. Maybe you were reaching a new version of yourself, shedding old beliefs and pains, and needed someone who vibrated on the same frequency as your healing. Or maybe you were simply ready for growth, and they became the catalyst. The universe doesn't send people to distract us, it sends people to awaken us. And awakening is never comfortable. It stretches us, softens us, opens us, and demands that we pay attention. And when you start paying attention, you notice things that would otherwise be missed. The way your heart softens around them, the way your body feels more alive, your thoughts more focused, your spirit more grounded. These are not coincidences. These are signals. They're whispering truths your mind hasn't yet grasped. That person was brought to you because something in your story required them. It's not always about romance or lifelong companionship. Sometimes it's about the lesson, the mirror, the timing. And sometimes it's about love, but a love that rewrites the way you've always understood connection. Maybe they came to remind you of your worth, to show you what it means to be truly seen. Maybe they arrived to heal a wound you didn't realize was still open. Or perhaps they are the bridge between your past and your future, the one who helps you cross over into a better version of yourself. Divine connections carry purpose, and that purpose often reveals itself slowly, like morning light creeping through closed blinds. You might not understand the reason in the moment, but your soul recognizes it instantly. That's why you feel the pull. That's why they feel familiar. When someone makes your soul feel at home, pay attention. When someone's words feel like medicine, Pay attention. When someone's silence feels peaceful rather than awkward, that is not random. That is grace unfolding. We often try to rationalize these meetings, trying to categorize them into something familiar, but they're not meant to fit neatly into boxes. Divine connections exist outside of our control. They are too big for logic, too deep for the surface, too strong to be ignored. They are here to do the sacred work of transformation. And whether that transformation takes the form of joy, discomfort, clarity, or pain, it is all sacred. Sometimes we want to hold on to these people forever, but their role in our story is only for a chapter. And other times, the person stays. They become a lifelong companion, not just in presence, but in purpose. The soul recognizes its counterpart. It knows what it's been waiting for. And when it arrives, the energy shifts. Your soul leans forward. Your heart begins to breathe again. You find yourself saying things you've never said, feeling things you've never allowed yourself to feel, dreaming things you thought you'd forgotten. All because of one person, one connection, one divine intersection. NN. You may question it at times. You may doubt yourself or even feel afraid to embrace what you've been given. But this is where trust steps in. Not blind faith, but soul-deep trust. Trust that what you feel is real. Trust that the presence of this person is meaningful. Trust that the timing was divine. And even if the journey gets complicated, even if the connection stretches you in uncomfortable ways, the growth is intentional. Every moment you spend unraveling who you are with the help of this person is a moment that brings you closer to your truest self. NNSO, stop brushing it off. Stop second-guessing the significance. If this person has ignited something in you, compassion, reflection, courage, creativity, vulnerability, then know this: they were placed in front of you for a reason. The universe is deliberate. God is intentional. There are no accidents in the realm of the soul. You were meant to feel what you're feeling. You were meant to explore this connection. You were meant to be changed by it. That doesn't mean it will be easy, but it will be real. And real is what your soul has been craving all along. When someone enters your life and shifts the entire atmosphere of your world, it's not just a moment, it's a message. Sometimes the message is about healing. Sometimes it's about awakening to love. Other times it's about facing parts of yourself you've buried or forgotten. Whatever the message is, it doesn't scream, it whispers. It appears in the quiet between moments, in glances, in timing, in a strange sense of calm you can't explain. And that calm, that shift, is an invitation. An invitation to go deeper, to listen closer, to finally recognize that this is not just another encounter. This is a turning point. It's easy to dismiss someone's presence as coincidence, especially when you've been hurt before, or when you've trained yourself to expect nothing lasting. But some people don't just come and go. They arrive and remain, whether physically or energetically. They leave an imprint. You think about them at unexpected times. You replay conversations. You find your emotions stirring in ways they haven't for a long while. And while your mind tries to create boundaries or labels, your heart already knows. It knows that this person is different, that their role in your life isn't random, that something sacred is unfolding. You weren't just meant to meet this person. You were prepared for them. All your life's moments, lessons, heartbreaks, victories, and quiet nights of growth have been guiding you toward this encounter. Maybe you didn't even know it, but something in your soul has been aligning so that when they came into your view, you wouldn't miss it, so that you'd recognize the light they carry, the energy they awaken, the resonance they mirror back to you. This kind of connection doesn't happen when you demand it. It happens when you're ready to receive it. And being ready doesn't mean being perfect. It means being open. It means having done enough inner work to allow someone in without fear sabotaging it all. Sometimes divine timing aligns not because you've figured everything out, but because you've finally surrendered. You've let go of what doesn't serve you. You've stopped chasing what's not yours. And in that stillness, this person enters not to complete you, but to journey with you. Not to fix your brokenness, but to hold space for your becoming. You may feel a sense of urgency when you meet them, like your soul wants to catch up with everything it already knows. That urgency isn't about rushing, it's about recognition. Your soul is recognizing a familiar frequency, one it hasn't felt in a very long time. Maybe in this life, maybe in many before. But that recognition goes beyond explanation. It speaks a language only hearts can understand. That's why you feel like you can talk to them endlessly. That's why silence with them feels full, not empty. That's why you don't need to pretend or shrink or perform. You just are. And they just are. And somehow, that is enough. Sometimes, these divine placements come during our most uncertain moments. When we're in transition, in healing, in searching. It's as though the universe waits for the exact moment your heart is cracked open just enough for light to enter. And then, it sends someone who carries that light. That person may reflect what you've forgotten about yourself. They might hold up a mirror to your strength, your softness, your dreams, your fears. And in doing so, they become more than just a person. They become a reflection of possibility, of transformation, of home. Even if you're scared to embrace the connection fully, it's okay. Fear is natural, but what matters is what you choose despite the fear. Will you open the door that has appeared before you? Will you lean into the pull instead of resisting it? Will you listen to the signs instead of dismissing them? Because when someone is placed in your path with this much clarity, this much resonance, it's not something to run from. It's something to honor, even if you don't know where it leads. Even if the story hasn't fully written itself yet. NNWE often wait for confirmation, for signs, for someone to tell us it's okay to trust what we're feeling. But the truth is, your soul already knows. The signs are within you. The feeling is the sign. The peace you feel around them is the proof. The way you light up when they speak, or the stillness that settles in your chest when they're near, that is evidence. Real connection doesn't cause confusion. It brings clarity. Even when there are unanswered questions, the connection itself feels certain. And not every divine placement is meant to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes they come quietly, humbly, and without grand declarations. But their impact is undeniable. They may walk into your life in the middle of an ordinary day and shift everything. They remind you of who you are. They challenge you to become more. And whether they stay for a season or a lifetime, the role they play is irreplaceable. You were meant to meet. You were meant to feel. You were meant to grow. NNSO. What do you do now that you've met them? You honor the experience. You don't try to control it, force it, or overthink it. You allow it to unfold. You listen closely. You show up fully. You remain present. Because presence is the soil where connection deepens. And as it deepens, your understanding of the purpose behind it will become more and more clear. You will begin to see why the universe timed it the way it did, why they couldn't have come earlier or later, why now was the only perfect moment. There's something sacred about the way timing weaves two lives together. You might have crossed paths with this person before, without ever noticing. Maybe you stood in the same place once, breathed the same air, lived only minutes apart. But it wasn't time then. You hadn't yet lived what you needed to live. They hadn't yet become who they needed to be. And now, all the tiny pieces of your lives have aligned. Now, it's time. And in this moment, something quiet and powerful is unfolding between you. Something that doesn't need validation from the outside world. You feel it in your gut. You sense it in your bones. It's like coming home without ever leaving. This kind of alignment doesn't just happen for anyone. It happens with someone who carries a frequency your soul recognizes. That frequency doesn't need to be logical. It doesn't ask for explanation. It just is. You can feel it in the stillness of a moment when your heart slows down instead of speeding up. You can hear it in the way their voice calms the chaos in your mind. And you can see it in the way their eyes look at you. Not with judgment, not with expectation, but with knowing, with understanding, with peace. Sometimes it feels like they see parts of you no one else ever noticed. The way your eyes light up when you talk about something you love. The way you go quiet when you're trying not to fall apart. The way you always keep moving, even when the world feels heavy. They see it, and they don't try to fix it. They just stay. And in that staying, something softens inside of you. Because for the first time, maybe ever, you don't feel like you have to carry it all alone. Maybe you've prayed for someone like this. Maybe you didn't even know what to pray for, but your soul did. And now, here they are. Not perfect. Not a fantasy. But real. And in their realness, they bring healing. Not because they fix your wounds, but because they sit with you in them. Because they remind you, through their presence, that you were never too much, never too broken, never too late. You were just waiting for someone who could meet you where you are and walk forward with you from that place. It's not always easy to accept this kind of gift. We've been conditioned to doubt goodness, to question when things feel right, to expect the worst, because that's what life has taught us. But what if this time it really is different? What if the reason this person feels so familiar is because your souls already knew this was coming? What if their presence is the answer, not the question? And what if letting them in is the next step in your journey of becoming? You see, divine encounters don't just shape our external world. They shift our internal world first. They bring to the surface what has been sleeping in us for too long. Old dreams, new courage, forgotten truths. We begin to remember what we came here for. We start to dream again, not just about the future, but about who we're capable of becoming. And that's what this person brings with them, a doorway into a new version of you, one that's more honest, more open, more alive. NNBUT. That doorway only opens if you walk through it, if you say yes to what you feel, if you give yourself permission to trust something that hasn't yet shown its full purpose. You may not know the outcome, you may not know how the story ends, but you know how it begins. With that feeling, with that undeniable pull towards someone who feels like more than a coincidence. And sometimes, that's all you need to take the next step. Not certainty, not control, just willingness. Not willingness to explore what's possible, willingness to listen to your heart, willingness to be present, even if it's vulnerable. Because vulnerability is the language of transformation. And transformation is what happens when two souls meet for a reason that neither can fully explain, but both can feel. It's not always dramatic or loud. Sometimes it's quiet, gentle, subtle, but it changes you. Slowly, deeply, permanently. There might be moments of confusion, moments where you doubt, moments where you try to pull away or protect yourself. That's natural, it's part of the process. But even in those moments, pay attention to what keeps drawing you back, to the conversations that linger in your mind, to the way your heart reacts to their presence. These are clues. They're showing you where your soul feels most at ease, most open, most in the open. And remember, the connection is not about perfection. It's about purpose. It's about what you're building together, what you're learning, how you're growing. Some people come into our lives to teach us strength. Some teach us softness. Some show us how to love without fear. And some, the rare ones, do all three. They stretch you, they soften you, and they love you in a way that feels like a home you never knew you were missing. This person, whoever they are, has been placed in your life because you're ready. You might not feel ready. You might still be carrying doubt, fear, or pain. But the universe knows. It sees the work you've done, the nights you've cried in silence, the ways you've kept showing up when it felt impossible. And it has responded, not with a reward, but with alignment. Alignment with someone who mirrors your depth, your energy, your readiness. You are not being teased by fate. You are being invited by grace. Invited to trust what you feel, to step into a new chapter, to explore a connection that was never random. It's okay if you don't know all the answers. The questions are enough for now. Because every question you ask with an open heart brings you closer to the truth. And the truth is, you were meant to meet this person. They were meant to find you. And together, something divine is unfolding. Even now, there's a stillness that follows divine recognition. It's not the absence of movement, but rather the presence of something so deep that time itself pauses to acknowledge it. That stillness, when it comes, is unmistakable. You feel it the moment your paths cross. A calm intensity that settles over everything, as if the world has stepped back to allow the two of you to meet without distraction. The noise around you softens. Your inner chatter goes quiet. And all that remains is this unspoken understanding. Something meaningful is happening here. You may not know where it's leading. You may still carry doubts, uncertainties, or even fears. But none of that changes the truth of the moment. The truth that this person has brought something to your life that wasn't there before. Not chaos, not confusion, but clarity. The kind of clarity that exists even in the unknown. It's not about knowing the outcome. It's about recognizing the significance. And once you've seen that significance, it's impossible to unsee it. Maybe they've awakened something in you you thought had died. A passion, a dream, a belief in love. Or maybe they've brought a kind of peace you didn't realize you needed. That's the thing about divinely placed people. They don't arrive with fireworks. They arrive with resonance. And that resonance begins to echo through every part of your being. It realigns your perspective. It heals pieces of you without ever trying. And it helps you see yourself more clearly because in their presence, you feel seen. And being seen is no small thing. We live in a world that encourages performance, protection, and pretense. But with them, those walls start to dissolve. You find yourself telling stories you've never told, revealing fears you usually hide, speaking truths you didn't even know were sitting inside you. Not because you feel pressured, but because you feel safe. There is something sacred about feeling emotionally safe. It allows your soul to breathe, and in that breathing, you begin to expand. And expansion doesn't always feel comfortable. In fact, sometimes it feels like breaking, like unraveling, like coming undone. But with the right person, even the breaking feels sacred, because you know they're not there to judge you or save you. They're simply there to hold space for the becoming. They don't fill your empty spaces, but they stand beside you while you do. And in that quiet companionship, healing happens in the background, like the soft sound of a stream reshaping the stone. NNTHE beauty of divine placement is that it's not conditional. It's not about what you have to offer or prove. It's about who you are when the masks fall away. And when that person sees you in your rawness and stays, that's when you understand what true connection really means. It's not about intensity, it's about authenticity. It's about presence. It's about feeling anchored in a way you didn't even know you needed. Sometimes the mind will still protest. It will try to protect you from the unknown. It will raise questions like, what if this doesn't last? Or, what if they leave? But the soul doesn't operate on fear. The soul speaks in trust. It whispers, stay here, feel this, follow this. And when you listen, you begin to understand that divine timing doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with guidance. And if you honor that guidance, if you let it lead you, you will discover things about yourself you never imagined. And this person, this divine placement, might not make everything easier, but they will make everything clearer. You'll start to see your patterns. You'll understand your wounds. You'll recognize your capacity for love and your resistance to it. And all of that is a gift, because once you see clearly, you can choose differently. You can step out of survival mode and into wholeness. You can stop bracing for the worst and start creating from the best within you. It's important to remember that not all divine connections are lifelong. Some are seasonal, but that doesn't make them any less sacred. The duration of the connection doesn't determine its importance. Sometimes, the shortest encounters leave the longest impact. Sometimes, a few weeks with the right person teaches you more than years with the wrong ones. The depth of the connection matters more than the timeline. And if you've been given something deep, even briefly, be grateful. That depth was real. That moment was meant. NNBUT. What if they stay? What if this person isn't here for a chapter, but for the entire book? That's the mystery. You don't always know in the beginning. All you know is that something in you feels awake again. And in their presence, you feel like a more honest version of yourself. That's not something to ignore. That's something to explore. Slowly, gently, bravely. Because courage is not about rushing into certainty. It's about walking steadily into the unknown with your heart open. There may be challenges. There may be moments of distance, confusion, or even conflict. But even in those moments, you'll feel the thread that ties you together. You'll sense that this is not about ego or control. It's about truth, about growth, about being refined through connection rather than broken by it. And in that refinement, both of you are becoming more aware, more compassionate, more whole. Divine placement isn't about fixing each other. It's about witnessing each other. It's about being mirrors, not to reflect flaws, but to reflect light, to remind one another of who you really are when the world forgets. And if you've found someone who does that for you, cherish them, not in fear, but in reverence. Don't grip the connection tightly out of desperation. Hold it gently out of gratitude. Let it breathe. Let it evolve. Let it show you what's possible. Because at the heart of all of this is possibility. The possibility of transformation, of deep love, of soul-aligned partnership. You don't have to know how it ends. You just have to trust how it feels. And if it feels aligned, if it feels sacred, then trust that it is. You didn't imagine this connection. You were chosen for it. And every step you take with this person is a step deeper into the reason they were placed in your life. There's a sacred unfolding that happens when you allow yourself to receive what was meant for you. And receiving doesn't always look like a grand declaration or dramatic turning point. Often, it's quiet. It's in the way your shoulders relax around them. It's in the laughter that comes easily, the comfort in the silences, the safety in your softness. When someone is placed in your life by divine design, their presence becomes a kind of nourishment. It fills places that once felt hollow. It reminds you what peace feels like. And not the fleeting kind of peace, but the deep, cellular kind that wraps around your soul like warmth on a cold day. NNWE. Underestimate the power of being seen and accepted. We're taught to be strong, to be independent, to never need anyone. But there is strength in connection. There is courage in allowing someone to walk beside you. Not ahead, not behind, but beside. When someone is placed in front of you for a reason, that reason might simply be to remind you that you don't have to do life alone. That you were never meant to. You may notice that around this person, you start to open up in ways that surprise even you. Old memories rise to the surface, not to haunt you, but to be healed. Dreams you'd packed away begin to call your name again. You start imagining possibilities that once felt out of reach. And it's not because they're trying to change you. It's because their presence naturally unlocks what's been waiting inside you all along. This is how divine connection works. It activates what has been dormant. It nurtures what has been neglected. It speaks life into what was once silent. And you don't have to force the connection. You don't have to explain it to others. You don't need to make it look a certain way to fit a story. Your only job is to stay open, to stay honest, to stay grounded in what you feel. When something is meant, you'll know, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Even if the journey is complex, the foundation feels solid. Even when you're unsure of the next step, you feel supported in taking it. Some people are catalysts. They don't just come into your life to stay. They come to ignite something. A new belief, a new way of loving, a new way of showing up. They challenge you to let go of your masks, to release the stories that keep you small, to step into a version of yourself you've only glimpsed in your quietest moments. And if someone does that for you, it's not just about them, it's about the you that they help bring forward. This person may mirror you in ways you weren't prepared for. They may reflect back your fears, your resistance, your longing, but they also reflect your capacity to rise above all of it. They awaken your resilience. They remind you of your light. And in those moments of recognition, you realize that what you feel with them is not about fantasy. It's about resonance. You resonate with each other because you've been vibrating at the same hidden frequency, just waiting to meet. And maybe you've waited a long time. Maybe you've loved and lost. Maybe you've grown skeptical. That's okay. You're allowed to carry your experiences. But don't let the past blind you to what's in front of you now. This connection is not like the others. It doesn't follow the same patterns. It feels safer, more grounded, and more challenging in the best possible ways. Because true connection isn't about comfort alone. It's about evolution. It's about becoming through relationship. And that's what divine placement creates. Sacred space for becoming. You may find yourself surprised by how much you want to show up fully, how much you want to give, not because you're trying to earn love, but because love is already present. It's not something you're chasing. It's something you're sharing. That's what sets this apart. That's how you know it's real. It brings out your giving, your grace, your generosity, not out of fear, but out of fullness. Because you're no longer starving for affection, you're simply aligned, and alignment is powerful. When you're aligned with someone, your decisions begin to change. You start making choices that serve your growth, not your ego. You let go of old attachments because they no longer match your frequency. You step into a new flow, one where you're not hustling for love, but resting in it. One where love isn't earned. It's exchanged freely, because both hearts are open, both souls are aware, both spirits are ready. And readiness isn't about perfection. It's about willingness. Willingness to communicate. Willingness to be vulnerable. Willingness to apologize when needed, and to hold space when the other needs to process. In this kind of connection, even the hard moments feel holy. Even the misunderstandings become opportunities. Because you know the foundation is strong. And from that foundation you build not just a relationship, but a reality. This person, this divine presence in your life, may be the very answer to the questions you've been carrying for years. Not in a way that takes your power, but in a way that reminds you of it. They don't complete you, they complement you. They don't fix you, they witness you. And in that witnessing, you remember your wholeness. You remember that you are lovable, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. NNSO, don't rush this. Don't overanalyze it. Let it unfold as it's meant to. Let the timing be sacred. Let the connection be real, even if it's messy, especially if it's messy. Because real love is not about perfection. It's about presence, and presence is what allows two souls to evolve together in grace. There's a tenderness that grows in you when you start to realize that someone's presence isn't just a fleeting experience, but a spiritual marker. You begin to see them not just through the eyes, but through the heart. You start to interpret their actions through the lens of meaning rather than impulse. You notice how the timing of their words always seems right. How their energy calms storms you didn't even know were raging. How their arrival in your life made you feel, for the first time in a long while, like you could stop searching. When you stop searching, you begin to settle, not in complacency, but in truth. You settle into what is real, into what flows, into what feels earned not through suffering but through surrender. You didn't force this connection, you didn't chase it. It found you, or rather, you aligned with it by becoming who you were always meant to be. You were seen when you stopped hiding. You were met when you finally arrived in your own life. And now, they are here. Because the two of you are no longer on parallel roads, you're standing at the same intersection. NNTHAT alignment often brings up a deep emotional response. You may cry for no reason. You may feel exhausted, like your soul just exhaled after holding its breath for too long. This is healing. This is release. You're shedding the parts of yourself that had to carry it all alone. You're learning, maybe for the first time, that you don't need to be guarded with this person. That being known doesn't equal danger. That love, in its highest form, is not painful. It's peaceful. You might find that they start showing up in your dreams, that their name crosses your mind during the most random parts of the day, that they become a presence in your thoughts, not as a distraction, but as an anchoring point. You feel more present, not less, more centered, not more chaotic. This is one of the clearest signs of divine alignment. They bring you back to yourself, not away from it. They inspire focus, clarity, depth. They don't pull you out of your path. They walk it with you. Divine placement is never about dependency. It's about interdependence. Two whole beings recognizing that together something greater can be built. It's not about completing each other, but about complementing one another's purpose. This person might not understand everything about your past, but they honor your journey. They might not have all the same goals, but they support your vision. They see your scars and call them symbols of strength, not reasons to run. It's okay to feel overwhelmed by that kind of love. When you've lived in survival mode, peace can feel foreign. When you've built walls to protect yourself, openness can feel unsafe. But trust that your soul recognizes the difference. Trust that what you feel now isn't chaos. It's clarity. It's the deep knowing that this person isn't here to repeat your past. They are here to help you rewrite your future. And rewriting doesn't happen all at once. It's a series of small moments. The text that arrives when you're feeling low. The laughter shared after a hard day. The silence that doesn't need to be filled. These tiny threads begin to weave a tapestry of trust. And before you know it, that person is no longer just a visitor in your life. They're part of your foundation. Not because they tried to be, not because you needed them to be, but because that's what happens when alignment becomes connection, and connection becomes something sacred. This journey may not always be linear. There may be pauses, distance, misunderstandings, but underneath all of it is a current that doesn't break. It may ripple, it may shift, but it remains. That's what makes it divine. It endures not through control, but through grace, through mutual understanding, through the shared intention to hold space for each other's growth. You are not the same person you were before you met them. Not because they changed you, but because they awakened what was dormant. They mirrored your depth. They challenged your surface. They reminded you that life is more than just getting through. It's about feeling fully, loving bravely, and surrendering to what you cannot always explain. That surrender is what opens the door to true intimacy. NNTRUE. Intimacy isn't about physical closeness, though that may be part of it. It's about emotional safety. It's about spiritual resonance. It's about being able to sit across from someone and feel like your soul is understood, like the parts of you you once hid are now being seen and embraced. When that happens, the ego falls quiet. The fear softens. And love becomes not just a word, but a way of being. It's tempting to look ahead, to try and map out where this connection will lead. But the power of this experience isn't in predicting the future. It's in being present with what's unfolding now. You don't need to know how it ends to honor how it began. You don't need certainty to appreciate the beauty of the moment. All you need is honesty, presence, willingness, and those things are enough. When you stop resisting the magnitude of what this person means, you begin to receive the full gift of their presence. You begin to see how everything before them prepared you for this, how the heartbreaks shaped your strength, how the solitude deepened your awareness, how the waiting wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now here they are, not perfect, not the answer to all your problems, but real, aligned, intentional, and meant. When someone is placed in your life for a reason, the full understanding of that reason may not arrive right away. Sometimes it reveals itself over time, through shared experiences, through growth, through reflection. But even before the logic becomes clear, the soul knows. It responds. It leans in. It says this person matters. And that quiet certainty is more reliable than 1,000 explanations. There may be moments where you doubt what you feel. Moments when you question if you're imagining things, if you're projecting, if this is just another emotional illusion. But deep down, something resists that doubt. Something steady inside you insists that this is different. And it is. Because your nervous system feels safer. Your voice feels heard. Your heart doesn't feel the need to armor itself the way it once did. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Need doesn't the. Truth is, the person in front of you didn't arrive randomly. They were sent. sent to be a part of your awakening, your healing, your expansion. They carry with them a reflection of what you're ready for and what you're ready to become. That's the role of divine placement. It opens doors within you that had been closed for far too long. It nudges you to step through them, even if your legs tremble a little. You're not alone in that trembling, because this person has likely felt the same stirrings, the same awe, the same internal shift. Divine connections rarely awaken just one soul. They create a mirrored journey, where both people are invited into greater awareness. Both are changed. Both are elevated by the presence of the other, whether they acknowledge it in words or not. The impact is mutual, and it's real. There will be moments that test the connection, moments when life tries to pull you in different directions, when fear creeps in, when old patterns rise to the surface. But this is where the sacredness of the connection shows its power. Because instead of crumbling under pressure, you find yourselves leaning into each other, not to fix, but to witness, not to control, but to hold space. That kind of bond doesn't break easily. It deepens with time. Sometimes the reason you were placed in someone's life is because they needed your light, and other times it's because you needed theirs. But most often, it's both. It's reciprocal. Two lights finding one another in the fog, guiding each other home. You help each other remember what wholeness feels like, not through perfection, but through presence, through shared truth, through real connection. It's in the quiet moments that you'll feel it most, the comfort in being seen without having to explain yourself, the joy in simply existing near someone who gets it, the way they seem to understand the parts of you you've only ever shown to the night sky. That level of resonance isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. You've met before, in 1,000 invisible ways. And now, here you are, choosing each other again in this lifetime. You may never fully understand the timing. You may wonder why they came when they did, or what would have happened if it had been sooner. But trust this. They came at the exact moment your soul was ready. Not when you were perfect, not when you had it all figured out, but when you were open enough to receive something real. And because of that openness, a door was opened, a connection was made, a new path began. Not rush to define it, let it breathe, let it shape itself through presence and shared moments. Some connections were never meant to be labeled. They were meant to be lived, felt, honored. And whether this person becomes your partner, your closest friend, your teacher, or your forever mirror, their impact on your journey is part of your divine design. And so hold the connection with care. Don't suffocate it with fear. Don't burden it with expectation. Simply show up. Let your soul stay open. Let your truth be soft and strong. And allow the connection to teach you, to guide you, to love you, because that is what it came here to do. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. One where you no longer chase meaning, but recognize it when it appears. One where you stop doubting what your heart already knows. One where divine timing is no longer something you fear, but something you trust. You are not alone on this path. The person in front of you is proof of that. So take a deep breath, let go of the doubts, and embrace the reason they are here. Because the truth is, you didn't just meet them by chance. You were guided to each other. And now that you're here, don't look away. Don't retreat back into old patterns. Step forward. Stay awake. Stay grateful. Because when God puts someone in front of you for a reason, it's never just about the moment. It's about everything that follows. And what follows can change everything.